Welcome to the Hope for the Animals podcast, a project of compassionate living. I'm your host, Hope Bohannic, and if you can, in this season of giving, please support this podcast with an end-of-the-year donation by going to our website, compassionate-living.org/donate. I'm so excited to share this interview with you. Renee King-Sonnen is the founder and director of Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. It used to be a cattle ranch in Texas that she transformed into a sanctuary with her husband after going vegan. And her story is amazing, and she is a hoot, as my very Southern grandmama would say. Just a few quick things before we get into the interview. I wanted to remind everyone that my book, The Humane Hoax, would make a nice gift for the holidays. It's an anthology that came out this year. The full title is The Humane Hoax, Essays Exposing the Myth of Happy Meat, Humane Dairy, and Ethical Eggs. It's available from the publisher, directly from the publisher, Lantern Publishing and Media. That's the best way to get it, or you can buy it anywhere that you buy books online. Maybe you know someone who buys humanely labeled animal products, that buys organic dairy or cage-free eggs. This would be a fantastic gift for folks who are duped by the humane hoax. Please consider giving the gift of knowledge that could change someone's life, knowledge that can help create a new world of compassion and kindness. I hope you consider my book on your holiday shopping list. It's called The Humane Hoax, edited by Hope Bohannic. I also wanted to let you all know that I'm going to be taking a vacation from the podcast for a short while. This will be the last episode for the year, and I will be back with new episodes in February. I just need to take a breath, have a few days where I am not audio editing, but I'll be back in February with some great new content. Okay, let's get into today's interview now. I love these stories of transformation from folks who are actually in animal agriculture, that are in the animal agriculture industry and made a massive transformation in their lives. There was recently a great interview with an ex-farmer. He was a sheep and dairy farmer, J.H. Burnett. That was episode 87. And now we have another one with Renee. And Renee has such a heartwarming story. I really hope you enjoy this interview. All right, I am honored to bring on to the podcast Renee King-Sonnen. Renee is the founder and executive director of Rowdy Girl Sanctuary, whose mission is to provide sanctuary to farmed animals at risk of being slaughtered and promote an ethical vegan lifestyle. Renee led the transformation of a cattle ranch in Texas to a sanctuary of more than 120 animals, the first documented beef cattle ranch conversion to 100% vegan sanctuary in history. Rowdy Girl Sanctuary is changing the world for farmed animals with programs like the Rancher Advocacy Program, or RAP, an educational program that inspires cattle ranchers and animal farmers to consider alternatives to animal farming, and Families Choosing Compassion, that offers a compassionate alternative to Future Farmers of America and 4-H programs. And most recently, Renee has been the subject of a documentary called Rowdy Girl that had its world premiere in Toronto at Hot Docs and the U.S. premiere at the Hampton Film Festival. And we're going to be talking about that today. And she's also completed a memoir with the working title of Secret Diaries of a Cattle Rancher's Wife, slated to be published in 2024. Welcome to the podcast, Renee.
Hi, Hope. Wow. Thank you so much for that beautiful energy. Just radiates.
Aw, well, I love your energy, and I'm so excited to finally have you on the podcast. I've been wanting to have you on for a while, but since your film came out, I was like, okay, now is the time. You've got to be on the podcast. So thank you. Thanks for agreeing to be on. We like to start with why and when you went vegan. That's kind of always our first question for the guest. But I know that your vegan journey really is kind of part of your full origin story, the transition of your ranch. So why don't you go ahead and just tell us your whole backstory of how Rowdy Girl came to be and why and when you went vegan through that transition?
Sure, sure. Gosh, I never planned to go vegan. It wasn't in my cards that, I was going to grow up and be a vegan one day. Being from Texas, I was, born and raised in Houston, Texas. I always say that I had a collection of leather boots. I had a collection of leather clothing. I attended the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo and the barbecue cook-offs and chili cook-offs, annually. It was all part of my persona. It was the people I hung out with. It was very much a culture. And I even produced country and western shows years ago, in the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo Auditorium. My entire persona and culture of myself and in the way I grew up was, as a Texan through and through.
Mm.
And so when I married Tommy, a lot of things had happened in my life. I had a problem with alcohol. I had gotten, struggled with my alcoholism and was in and out of recovery. And, I'm sober, by the grace of God today. Thank God. Thank God for not only me, but for these animals, because it took me getting sober to finally understand my true mission in life. But,
Yeah.
and so I met Tommy, and I had been through a lot of my own self-reflection and growth and recovery. Going vegan was just golly, you talk about recovering from eating animals. Woo! But anyway, when I married Tommy for the second time, we married once, and that was back in the 90s. And then we divorced as a result of my alcoholism and all. I was pretty much in the thick of it at that time, the first time we married. And then when we remarried, I was sober in 2010. And we were excited about our future. And several years had passed before we got remarried. He bought the cattle ranch in Texas when he made the decision to pick up the ranching baton of his forefathers. Tommy's heritage is, in cattle ranching and dates back to the 1800s. And so Tommy wanted to pick that up in a very authentic way. And so he acquired the cattle ranch. And I didn't realize that I was having an awakening on a cattle ranch. It never occurred to me that was happening to me until I actually, almost like a few days before I went vegan on October 31st, 2014. So imagine, if you will, I married Tommy in 2010. And I went vegan October 31st, 2014. A lot of years passed while we were married, a lot of fights, a lot of struggles, a lot of me trying to figure out how to do the right thing, the wrong way. I always loved animals. I had cats, dogs, ferrets, raccoons. I used to save scorpions. And I always had a heart for animals, even insects, dirt daubers. I didn't want to harm animals or insects even. But my brain never equated the food I ate to any harm. I never had a moment's thought that there was any harm there. And so I came to a place of real authentic awareness when I purchased Rowdy Girl. Tommy and I, were married.
Rowdy Girl was a cow.
Rowdy Girl is a cow.
Right. Okay.
Now, when I purchased Rowdy Girl, Hope, she was a little baby. She was barely, maybe 5 or 6 weeks old. I don't know the backstory of Rowdy Girl. I don't know why she didn't have her mama, nor did I even think about it. It never occurred to me because I wasn't a vegan. There was another little calf that I bought that same day named Bobo that didn't make it. She never got her mother's colostrum and died. But little Rowdy Girl, and the reason why, I have to back up and tell you, the reason I bought Rowdy Girl, it wasn't my idea. I always blame this on my husband. I'm always saying, if you wouldn't have wanted to get me more involved in cattle ranching, this would have never happened. Because he is the one that came home one day and said, Renee, and he knew I couldn't have children of my own. And he kind of pulled on my heartstrings. There's babies up the road that need a mama. And they're little baby calves. I don't know what happened, but they don't have a mama and they need to be bottle fed. And you really need to be a part of, you need some buy-in here at the cattle ranch. You need to step up, basically, and be part of the ranching world we're in too. So I went over there and I instantly fell in love with these calves, Rowdy Girl particularly, because she was so bouncy. She was just bouncy, jumping around, and just had a spark in her that just lit up the world.
Mm.
And I took them both home, started bottle feeding them. And after Bobo passed, I just put everything into Rowdy Girl. I just started loving her like I love my cats and dogs. And I would feed her twice a day and she would come running to me, and something very odd began to happen. I began to, have you ever read that book called The Celestine Prophecy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you have?
They made a movie too. I'm fascinated by all that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm always asked before I talk about this part because I loved that book and that movie too.
Yeah.
And all I can tell you is Rowdy Girl put me in a state of like it is to be in the Celestine Prophecy.
Wow.
She caused me to see things that I never was able to see before. And it was always right there.
Yeah.
She was able to show me all the nuances of the other cows. We had a mostly all black Brangus herd. It's hard to tell them apart, unless you're a cow. And I began to be able to tell them apart one by one. I began to name them. And I could tell my husband, that over there is red, that's Oreo, whatever. I just began to give him what was going on, what I was seeing. I would come back from feeding Rowdy Girl and I would start telling him all about my experiences with these cows. And I was always excited. And he said, Renee, you better stop naming them cows. You can't do that. And I was like, well, why not? It was almost like they were naming themselves. And I was just saying it out loud. Naming them was like it just seemed like the next right thing to do. When I was feeding Rowdy Girl, she was feeding me. Like an entire communication and level of understanding and awareness and an ability to see what was always right there, but I couldn't see because I had no ability to tap into that dimension.
Wow. Like showing you their individuality, their personalities, that they were individuals.
Yeah, I could see each one of them separately and I could identify them. And it was like being in the Celestine Prophecy or like the Matrix. Everything's real in that world. I was like when I was feeding Rowdy Girl, there was a different world that was real. She-Hope was my vegan advocate.
Wow.
Rowdy Girl is the one that woke me up. And it caused me to go down many paths of trying to understand why we were selling our cows. Why didn't we buy our meat from a humane, blah, 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 right? Using that word, because I didn't know then. People don't know that humane's a myth.
Right.
People don't know that the word humane doesn't mean anything when it comes to killing animals. You can't humanely kill an animal. People don't know that.
Yeah.
And so when I, as a cattle rancher, started trying to do things right, I went down that path of trying to be a humane meat farmer. And I remember trying to convince Tommy, if we're gonna eat meat, and why are we selling these animals? We need to just kill our own animals and do it the humane way. I remember these conversations, And Tommy was like, I can't do that. And I was like, why? It's the most humane way, right? And he said, I can't do that. I said, well, how come we can eat the bodies of these animals at the store in packages, but we can't eat the ones in our field? How come we can't kill them ourselves? That's the most humane way. And he said, Renee, don't even go there. He got mad at me. And I said, well, why? And so I kept something in me. I think it was the grace of the animals that gave me an ability to push my husband to an edge every single day that he had never been to before, nor had I. And one day I said to him, I'm done. I'm not gonna do this anymore unless we, kill our own animals. Because I couldn't stand sending the animals to the sale barn. I couldn't stand the mamas crying every time all the babies went to the market. I couldn't stand it. It was tormenting to me. I remember the first time I saw the babies of, a half dozen or more cows, their babies loaded up into that red trailer. And the moment they went out of the pasture down our mile and a half of highway frontage, those cows, those mamas, they spanned the distance of that frontage of Highway 35, screaming for their children.
Mm. Oh.
I can still see the baby calves busting out in tears as they were leaving the farm. The betrayal was palpable. The scrambling in the trailer of those baby calves, looking at me and Tommy, looking at their mamas like, oh my God, where are we going?
Mm.
I still, to this day, am haunted by those images. And so after that would happen, the mamas would cry for days. And as a non-vegan, as a cattle rancher, I would walk out there every single day with those cows. And I would get on my knees and I would cry with them. I would cry. I would beat my fist into the earth. Just me, God, and the cows and the earth heard my torment.
Mm.
So, when I was trying to wrestle with the whole humane meat thing, Tommy wouldn't go along with it, but I kept pushing it. And I said to him one day, all right, we're going to do this. I've talked to some people up the road at one of these little health food stores. They sell bone broth, and they, had a sign up that they have, there's a local dairy in town where you can get your meat, you can get your milk and your cheese and yada, yada, yada from a local dairy. They'll deliver it to your house. And I said, and I talked to the owner, and I told them that we would kill one of our cows and we could all go in together as a community and, feed our families. And Tommy said, you did what? and I said, well, this is a community, right? You've always told me that that's what we're doing this for, to feed families, to feed, I said, so if we're going to do this, then why don't we participate in this community and feed families? Oh, he got so mad at me. He was like, Renee, I can't kill one of my cows. I said, why? And, I really do believe it was the grace of Rowdy Girl pushing me.
Yeah. And also just so amazing how attached you get to the animals, how you don't want to do the killing. You have someone else do the killing, even the ranchers and farmers.
Hope, my husband, is one of the most beautiful beings in the world. He loves animals. He loves them cows. Yeah. Good people like Tommy, they're in a world where loving animals and killing them is normal.
Right.
It's a terrible matrix that we are all in, and it takes people to wake up. And so that's what started to happen is I began to push my husband. I told him, I said, which one are you going to pick? Pick one. We're going to kill one. I said slaughter. I didn't use the word kill at the time. I'm going to slaughter one of our animals, and we're going to feed the community. We're going to start getting our milk from this dairy. And so milk and meat, milk and cheese and butter and all this stuff started coming to our house every week, and big mason jars with all this fresh milk in it that had the name of the cow on the top, Polly, Della, Belly. So, so I knew I was drinking milk from the udder of Della, or whatever.
Mm.
That gross or what?
Yeah.
But I know, but back then I thought I was doing the humane thing. I really thought that.
You fell for the humane hoax.
Exactly. That's why I'm telling you, because you've written about this.
Yeah.
I am a perfect example of normal people that fall for it every day and believe they're good people,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And so I was seriously pushing my husband because I didn't want to do cattle ranching anymore. I hated it. I
Mm.
hated watching those babies go to the sale barn. It just killed me. And from
Yeah.
February of 2014 to October of 2014, Tommy and I fought every single day because he had to hide the fact that he was trying to groom animals to go to the sale barn. I mean, one time he tried from that February to December, and he could never do it, because I always knew what was going on. And I wasn't a vegan. I was just like, no, you are not sending. I couldn't stand the way it made me feel. I felt like a traitor. I felt horrible. And Tommy never liked to go into the sale barn. He always let his partner go because he didn't like the look of betrayal in the eyes of those calves when he dropped them off at the sale barn because Tommy was the only person they knew.
Mm.
They would just look at him like, you're going to leave me here with this? I mean, they got slapped with tags. They got, poked and prodded with cattle prods. They got shoved around, people screaming in their ears, time to auction them off. And Tommy left them in that.
Mm.
And he never liked doing that. So he let his partner do all the dirty work. He didn't like it. I mean, he just wanted to make the money because that's what he thought he was supposed to do.
Right.
That's what farmers have to do to get tax breaks, all that. And so finally, when Tommy was getting ready to sell all those cows, he had that red trailer out there. He was going to load them. We were fighting all the time. On Halloween, October 31st, a few weeks prior to that, I had started watching all these slaughterhouse videos because I wanted to know where the local dairy milk was coming from. I started wanting to research, well, where's this really coming from? What's really going on? And so everything I started discovering was the dark, 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 dark secrets of even humane milk, even humane meat. In fact, it's so dark that even those stories about anything being humane, any animal product being humane, it's such a lie. It's so perverted. When you actually see the videos of these so-called humane meat farms or humane dairies, it will make you, if that don't make you go vegan, that's what started doing it for me, was actually watching these videos. I made myself watch them and I'm a rancher. And then all of a sudden I'm telling Tommy, you got to watch this, you got to see this. And he would say, Renee, you've got to stop watching that PETA propaganda. And I was like, that is not PETA propaganda. This is real stuff. This is really happening. So I would start crying every day from September to October. I was literally losing my mind.
Mm.
I hated my life. I didn't want to say I hated my husband, but I couldn't stand what we were doing. I started calling him a murderer, and of course I was complicit too. I was, and he would bring the sales receipts home and he would throw them down in front of me and he'd say, oh, I'm a murderer, but you don't mind spending the money.
Mm.
And so all of these realities started breaking the matrix in my consciousness. Something started shifting in me. And then on October 31st, after watching dozens and dozens of slaughterhouse videos, it's Halloween. It's Halloween 2014.
Uh-huh.
And we're getting ready to go to my mother-in-law's for a big Halloween party for all the kiddos and their costumes, a big block party. I left that day going to my mother-in-law's the day I went vegan. I didn't know I was going vegan that day. I went to the house with Tommy. We walked in, all the kids in their costumes, all the in-laws and outlaws, talking, playing games, doing whatever. And my mother-in-law comes out with a big pot of beef stew.
Oh, oh, wow.
The universe couldn't have set this up. I think the grace of the animals did this. Rowdy Girl set this up. I do believe that. I believe Rowdy Girl was orchestrating something. As soon as she brought out that beef stew and was like, Renee, would you like a bowl of, I immediately I just said, I can't eat that.
Mm.
And she looked at me and she goes, why not? Because I said it so emphatic. And she said, well, why not? I said, because it's got floating dead, hacked up animal bodies in it, and I ain't eating it. And every Everybody in the room stopped talking, looked at me. All eyes were on me. It was like still frame. Everybody's mouth was open, like I had just cussed my mother-in-law out.
No.
And she repeated it. She said, "What did you say?" She asked me that, and then I repeated myself. And I said, "It's got floating dead, hacked up animals in it, and I just can't eat it. I'm done. I'm done." And I mean, I said I'm done in such a way that I wasn't trying to convince her of it. I was telling myself, I'm done.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? And she said, "Well, Renee, you can pick it out." And you know what I said? I said, "There ain't no more picking it out for me. I am
Yeah.
over it. I'm done." And my husband looked at me, my family members looked at me, and like, "Oh my God," and Tommy said, "Renee, what is wrong with you?" And I said, "I'm done." Anyway, girl, I went vegan right then. I didn't know I was going vegan. I just knew that it was over. I knew that going vegan meant I wasn't going to eat any more animal products, meat, milk, cheese, eggs. I mean, because I had seen all these videos that I'd been watching all by myself, learning about all this, not on purpose, not like I wasn't going down the road to learn about veganism. I was going down the road to learn about how to do the right thing the wrong way.
Mm, yeah.
That's Rowdy Girl, the Grace of the Animals is my vegan advocate. That's what woke me up. I was so awakened. It was like all of the feelings that I had been carrying and suppressing on my insides were now like totally on my outsides.
And so now your ranch became a sanctuary, Rowdy Girl Sanctuary, where you now care for the animals, let them live their lives out. And you've recently released a film that's called Rowdy Girl, and it's your story, telling your story. So, how did this project for the film come about? I got to watch it. Thank you for letting me have a preview of it, and it's really, really a wonderful film. It has a lovely kind of gentle feel, and you really get to kind of be with the animals a lot. I liked that. There were some really lovely moments of you communing with the animals. Tell me about this film.
Yeah, thank you for watching and asking. It's been a real honor to be the subject of this documentary. Jason Goldman is really the genius behind this project because he had an idea of just following us around without music. It was very observational.
Yeah.
He never scripted anything. It was all, he would say, "I'm going to be able to come down for XYZ amount of days in XYZ month and whatever's happening. I just want to, be there and capture it." So whenever he came, whatever was going on at the sanctuary during the time he was here, that's what he captured. It wasn't never, nothing was planned.
Mm.
He found out about he found out about the transition story. I mean, the part that I didn't tell you about was what really attracted him was the fact that after I did go vegan, I had that showdown in the pasture with my husband, and I told him, "If you take those animals up to the sale barn one more time, I will follow you and I will buy them all back with your credit card and I'll bring them back home." So he heard about this story that had gone viral on CBS Evening News and ABC and Animal Planet because that one audio clip, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I will see somebody somewhere and they know that line by heart. Yeah, millions of views off that. And so the story, he heard of the story, because I was going to have to buy my husband's cows because he was getting ready to send them all to slaughter. So the reason Jason, I have to tell you this because the reason he came to want to do this film was not because I went vegan on Halloween Day. It was because after I went vegan, I became my husband's worst nightmare. A cattle rancher, vegan. His wife, vegan. And I was blocking him left and right. And I was doing it out loud and in public.
Mm.
I was humiliating him. There was something in me that was so powerful. I didn't care. All I knew is these animals could not be sent to the sale barn on my watch. I knew for a fact that after I went vegan, I would not let my husband sell them. I would die for them. I even told him I will take a bullet in the street for these animals. Try me. You'll have to run me over.
Mm.
Uh, I said all this in public, and I'm a new vegan. I didn't know all the rules. I didn't, there's a lot of rules to being a vegan, and I kind of broke a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, we do in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we wouldn't be having this talk if I wouldn't have broke the rule of buying animals, because if I bought his animals, I bought his
Yeah.
cow. And Tommy told me, he said, Renee, if I had, now he tells me this, if I knew then what I knew now as a vegan, I'd have just given you the cows. But he didn't know.
Yeah.
He didn't
Well,
know.
but it's such a credit to him that he didn't just, divorce you and be done with it. He did come around and he did go vegan, and now he is very much part of the sanctuary. I love that. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, and that's why Jason came here, is because of the story, the love story of me and Tommy. What
Hmm.
what started out as a war. Tommy had this giant elk head in our house with big horns,
Oh,
and
wow.
he called it an heirloom. I think it was his grandfather's, one that he had killed, and Tommy just worshipped this thing and had these big horns. I promise you, I wanted to hang Tommy up on those antlers and leave him there. I just wanted to leave him there and just let him stay there while I took care of things. But
Mm.
I remember thinking those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Because when I went vegan, I started living with all the cows during the day. I just took my lunch, my guitar, everything, and I would go be with those cows because I couldn't stand being at home with Tommy because there were so many deer heads and stuff in my house.
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah.
hated being in my home.
Mm.
And Jason heard all of these stories. He had saw it on CBS Evening News, on ABC, and he just contacted us out of the blue and said, "Man, I've heard all about your story. I've seen it everywhere, and I just would love to document, what you do on a day-to-day basis. What kind of person are you?" That's why he started documenting our story, and I'm so thrilled with the way it turned out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lovely film. It really is. And I love the part. There's a part in the film where a rancher brings you a little calf. And I
Yeah.
think his name was Buster. Either he named him Buster or y'all named him Buster or
Sonny Allen, yeah, actually named that little baby calf.
oh, Buster. Okay. It was just such a lovely and kind of poignant moment. The love that he had for this little calf and how he really wanted this calf to be taken care of. And, and I lived in Texas for part of my childhood. We've talked about this. I went to middle school and high school in Texas, and my family's from the South. And it's really interesting to me, the contradiction in Texas, because on the one hand, I mean, I really believe that most of the ranchers and the farmers, they love what they do. And a lot of them, I think, do it because there are animals. They love to be around the animals. They actually love the animals. But somehow they can, separate or justify that cruelty and killing. But it's just interesting because Texans, I think that they feel that they're very close to animals and that they love animals, but at the same time, of course, they are, horribly exploiting them and commodifying them and killing them. So it's this very strange contradiction, but I think that moment in the film really kind of captured that, right? How these ranchers do love animals, but yet they're kind of caught in the business of it all. It's really interesting.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it didn't somehow, they somehow, are caught up in a world where they kill animals. They are,
Yeah.
because this is the world we live in. We live in a world that normalizes violence. Our
Yeah.
society is set up to send kids to school, to raise animals like Buster as projects. We are set up to train children not to feel an emotional connection, to whip them into shape for a show, to fatten them up so that they get the most points and they get more money. And so from Animal agriculture has its tentacles in all walks of our life. Agribusiness is in everything. It's in our schools, it's in our churches, it's in our government, it's in every walk of life. It's so unfortunate because people like Sonny Allen, I mean, he is the epitome of a Christian rancher with a tender heart that loves animals and ranches because he believes he's doing the right thing for the planet, for his family, and for the animals. He really believes that they're put here to feed us.
Yeah.
Why does he believe that? He doesn't just somehow believe that. And that's why I have so much tolerance for ranchers. He didn't just somehow. He believes it because that's what we are conditioned through all of our family lines to have celebrations around dead animals. We're conditioned to believe that they're here on this planet to feed us. It's a conditioning.
Yeah.
And so I remember when I stepped out of that matrix, everything about that belief system had to die. It had to go up in smoke for me to live in this world. You know, you can't have your feet in both worlds.
Yeah.
You know, it's just unfortunate. And people like Sonny they're such good people. And Buster, you know, he's thriving here today.
Oh, good. I was going to ask, how is little Buster?
The big boy.
Big
Buster,
Buster now.
yeah. People love Buster because he's so, you know, we had to bottle feed him. And, you know, Sonny has been out to visit Buster on a couple of occasions.
Mm.
And you know, he will ask me about Buster, and he's a really really great person that's caught in a system that if you go against it, if you get out of that system, your whole world crumbles.
Yeah. It's such an interesting thing to me when I was in Texas, and I actually went vegetarian when I was 16 in Texas. And, you know, it permeates the whole feeling of the area of the state. We are meant to kill cows. And that is, you know, the way things are. I think it's very, very hard to challenge that. And I love that that's exactly what you're doing. I mean, I think it's so important that you're there in Texas challenging that mindset, that status quo, and showing that there is a new way, a different way, a better way for us to interact with animals and to be with animals and to live life. And yeah, I love that.
Thank you. You know, I was going through town the other day in Lockhart. Lockhart's the closest town to Welder, where our sanctuary is 30 minutes from here. And it's the barbecue capital of Texas, Lockhart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm right in the middle of it, of course. And, you know, they were having their barbecue. You could smell dead bodies burning everywhere. And people were just lining up at all these tents. And, you know, and it was just barbecue everywhere.
Wow.
Everywhere. And so, you know, it's the way people are, and they worship and they memorialize, you know, dead bodies. It's unreal.
So I do want to ask you about the RAP program, the Rancher Advocacy Program, because this is so powerful and so important. You're offering assistance to ranchers and animal farmers that want to transition away from animal farming and start plant farming or start, I think mushroom farms are one of the ones you're working on. This is just so unique and important. And I think really, really a powerful campaign or project. So tell us about the RAP program, the Rancher Advocacy Program.
Sure. Yeah, it's certainly been a ride. The Rancher Advocacy Program was designed, you know, to help ranchers interested in transitioning away from animal agriculture by providing resources and support for plant-based farming models, rewilding scenarios, and carbon capture and that sort of thing. My original intent for RAP was to help farmers that started having emotional connections to the animals, like you saw in the film with Sonny.
Yeah.
It was to just like be there for that emotional connection so that I could somehow get in the back door of their consciousness and have real conversations with them. Because just like one recovering alcoholic can talk to another recovering alcoholic and they can be heard and seen, a rancher that's having an awakening about animals, they don't have anybody to talk to about that.
Yeah.
Unless they have somebody, like myself or others that have transitioned away from animal farming. And so originally rap was about that. And it evolved into a program designed to help them if they were interested in transitioning away, by providing them, not really, assistance. I mean, there's nothing I can really do to help them. I mean, I can't like give them, the green ticket, but I can certainly provide resources and support if they need it.
Yeah, and in the film Rowdy Girl, there's this other really moving part where you're on the phone with one of the ranchers. I think it's a couple, and you're on the phone with the wife who is in transition, that it's in your rap program. And one of their cows is sick and she's down, she can't get up. And you can hear over the phone the rancher's just anguish about what to do now that she is seeing the cows in a different way, in this deeper way, really caring for their well-being and their life, and how much pain it's causing her to not know what to do and how can I help. And it's this really powerful moment in the film. It's like she's having this kind of awakening to that these cows are more than just commodities. It's a really powerful part.
Yeah, that's Cindy and Richard Trailer. It's been a real joy to be a part of their lives and to watch them evolve. They're 100% vegan now, both of them, and
Wow.
it's been a real awakening for them. So yeah, I feel real blessed to have been a part of their journey.
And some of the farmers were transitioning to mushroom farming. You kind of showed some of this in the film. And the chicken houses that used to house, tens of thousands of chickens are really good for mushroom farming, because with mushroom farming, you kind of need like dark, confined, dank spaces. So the chicken houses kind of can become mushroom farming houses. That's really interesting.
Yeah, they certainly have, the potential to do that. It's a very expensive process to do what you have to do to these buildings to make sure that, the ground is and the environment is sterile, because there's so much ammonia and urine and feces and,
Mm.
death that was in those rooms for, so many years. And there's a lot that has to be done to make that happen. But certainly that is a model that we've explored.
So I know that you probably had dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of animals that have come through your care at this point. Can you tell us a story, maybe of one of those animals that particularly touched your heart or was an interesting story?
Oh, you're right about that. We've had hundreds, and gosh, I mean, they all are so near and dear to my heart. But if I had to
Yeah.
pick one that just has made such impact, it would be Gizmo.
Gizmo.
Gizmo, Gizmo the pig. The
Okay.
we have several FFA surrenders here, but Gizmo's story told through the mouthpiece of a young lady named Elena. Elena was an FFA at a very young age, and she had raised a pig named
FFA being Future Farmers of America.
Future Farmers of America. Yeah, where
Yeah.
they train kids to kill animals and, desensitize them, raise
Yeah.
animals, take care of them, desensitize them, and send them to slaughter.
Yeah.
And Elena was very special. So while all the other kids were whipping their pigs into shape, Elena couldn't stand to whip her pig. She couldn't stand to do that. She thought it was not nice and not good.
Wait, when you mean really actually literally whipping them, like hitting them?
Hitting them with these long like whips to keep them, make sure they walk in the right way, they walk the right direction. Yeah, you have to whip them in the face, like hit them and make sure that they go a different way.
Huh.
There's a story, Elena's story, Unchained TV has a beautiful platform streaming nonprofit for all kind of animal rights.
Yeah.
And
Jane Velez Mitchell. Yeah. She's been on the podcast. Yeah.
yeah, so you can get Elena's story, you can see it on there, and a lot
Okay.
of other animal stories that we have at Rowdy Girl can be seen on there.
Okay.
We have our own channel. Elena tells this story in one of the videos that Chubbles, she won all these prizes and all these ribbons for Chubbles, and she saw her best friend go to slaughter.
Mm.
And it broke her. It broke her. And then the next year, she got this pig named Gizmo because she wanted to do it different. She was convinced she was going to be able to do it different. And when she raised Gizmo, she couldn't do what all the other kids were doing, beating their animals into shape to get them ready for the ring. While other kids were playing with each other, Elena was giving her pig belly rubs. And when Elena's message hit my inbox on the Rowdy Girl Sanctuary Facebook page one day, it said it was desperate. It was like Gizmo's voice was coming through Elena. And Gizmo had, the clock was ticking, and he had not days, but hours. It was like maybe he might have had 48 hours before he was going to be put on the truck. I didn't have the Families Choosing Compassion program at the time. I just told Elena, I hear you. I hear she was 14 then.
Mm-hmm.
And she's reaching out to me, not her mom. And one thing led to the other, and we had an event that weekend. The whole family came: Elena, her sister, her mother, her dad. And now Gizmo is at Rowdy Girl. Elena, when they surrendered Gizmo, they agreed to not put any more animals into the FFA program. They agreed to, while Elena was still in school, to come out to the sanctuary every single week to be a part of Gizmo and the other pigs' lives, which they did. And Elena is now like 19 or 20 years old, and she still comes out to see Gizmo. Her mama, Anne, is on our board of directors.
Wow.
They're all vegan now.
Wow.
And so, except the dad, they got a divorce. I'm not sure if that was why. I doubt it, but anyway, yeah, he divorced the dad. He didn't go vegan, but Mama and the two girls are all vegan. They're very much a part of Gizmo's life, even Elena's sister, and it's just been beautiful to watch Gizmo thrive here. And you can see all about him on the website. He's there, his story. And
wow, that's great. I love it. I love that. So not only changing, the lives of animals, you're changing the lives of kids and the whole family. And it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a sanctuary for them too.
Yeah. Yeah. So before you go, is there a way, how can people watch the film Rowdy Girl? And I know that you're doing screenings. Are you encouraging people to do screenings? Tell us how people can watch the film.
Yeah, it's a great question. Jason Goldman is doing this thing right. I mean, we've got a Rowdy Girl Impact Tour. We've got a $50,000 match, so we can go, and I can be wherever I can be when the film is being played at these different festivals. But the way you can watch the film is to follow Rowdy Girl Film on Facebook and Instagram, because Jason is putting all the information about the film screenings. Another thing that's being done, if you're interested in having a screening in your community, like you have a theater and you have like a grassroots animal rights or vegan clubs there that want to host the screening, you can get a hold of Jason and he will do that. It's not a streaming at all yet for you to just plug into, on some Fire Stick or YouTube or whatnot. You can't just see it right now. But plug into Rowdy Girl Film and find out if you have a good group in your community. Reach out to Jason and see if we can get a screening, in your community. I just left San Francisco. It was at the Roxy a couple of weeks ago. So yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, it's just newly out. So not widely able to be seen. But yeah, if someone is interested in hosting a screening, yeah, get in touch. I think there's a website specifically for the film. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
And one
yeah.
other thing, And one
Yeah.
other thing too, I know he's orchestrating a theatrical release as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, you mean like actually in the theaters?
Yeah, like a theatrical release. I know he's orchestrating, he's working on that. And I don't,
Wow.
it hadn't happened yet, but I know he's working on that. And he's also working on trying to get the film into schools because
Wow.
because it's not a slaughterhouse, images, or there's nothing in it at all that would be violent towards children. So,
Right. Right. And that's important, I think, to even tell everyone that it is not graphic at all. So you don't have to worry about seeing any graphic imagery at all.
so
Yeah.
he's really trying to set it up to where we can get it in schools to educate children, in opposition to what's going on with the FFA and 4-H programs.
Yeah. Wonderful. Fantastic. Oh, I'm so excited. That's great because it is a fabulous film. Everyone should check it out and do a screening in your area. Find out how you can do that, and we'll put all that information in the show notes. All right, Renee.
And the book, I just want to say real quick,
Yeah,
that book is going to be out next year. You
right.
definitely,
Your memoir.
yeah, it'll be out next year. And so that's super, super exciting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so you'll want to, watch for that too.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Renee, I have enjoyed talking to you so much, but we have come to the last question. So I'm going to ask our last question. What gives you hope for the future?
Oh my gosh, the grace of the animals lives and breathes through me. Because no matter how bad it is, they show up. They show up to teach me every single second of the day what it means to be truly humane.
Hmm.
They teach me the definition of compassion. What gives me hope for the future is knowing I can walk out into a pasture and I can walk through my cows with full beauty and understanding of each and every single one. I know them all one by one, and they know me. They know their names. What gives me hope for the future is that the grace of the animals that are saved and in sanctuary all over the world, their voices are being heard through people like me and you. The heartbeat of the animal rights movement, I believe, is really the grace of the animals for people like us that are able to hear it and transmit it through every thought, word, and deed that we do.
Oh, really, really well said. Wonderful. Well, Renee, thank you for all the amazing work you're doing. It's just incredible. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
You're so welcome, Hope. Thank you. Big hugs.
Big hugs to you. Thank you for listening to the Hope for the Animals podcast, a project of compassionate living. I want to remind you that I will be taking a vacation from this podcast for a bit. This will be the last episode for the year. I'll be back with new episodes in February. Please consider an end of the year donation gift to Compassionate Living. You not only support this podcast, but all our projects and programs throughout the year. You can go to the podcast website to give a donation or compassionate-living.org/donate. I really, really appreciate your support. I hope you all have a fantastic holiday season. I hope you get some time to relax and enjoy and indulge in some holiday treats. And as always, live vegan.